How much are you going to see out of Josiah today? Are you going to have him pads? Is he going to be doing drill work? What do you think?
Yeah, he'll be out there, but it's going to be more just the individual. We're going to slowly integrate him back into the flow of things.
Matt, we've heard so much from every single defensive player about Joe Barry, the same word, energy. I assume most coaches have energy, so how big is his energy that it's so noteworthy to every single person we talk to?
He loves what he does, and he loves coming to work every day and working with these guys. And I think it's important as a leader to have that energy, especially throughout training camp. There can be lulls, and you can't allow that to happen, because we know that when our team is fired up, ready to go, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, and we're flying around, I think they have a chance to be pretty good on that side of the ball.
Hey man, we only see the physical development of Jordan Love. We're not behind those walls. What's going on behind there that he's made strides, and where does he improve the most, do you think, in those areas?
Yeah, there's so many things that go into that position when you're talking about just the communication in the huddle, the reminders that you might want to give a guy, the snap count, the command at the line of scrimmage, understanding what's going on. And then, by the way, you better understand the timing and your progression and the footwork, whether it's both in the run game and in the pass game. So there's so much that a young quarterback has to learn. And I think every opportunity he gets, whether it's in the meeting room or every rep, there's something to take from it. And then you've got a Hall of Famer in front of you that does all those little things that nobody notices so well. And he's been awesome, just giving them insight on just the little things that help make the whole operation smoother. It helps all other 10 guys go out there and execute their job to the best of their ability.
Are there any things that Aaron does that you just don't want Jordan to do? I mean, Aaron used to say, the coaches told me Brett would do this, but don't do it like that because it's unorthodox. Is there anything that Aaron does that you don't want Jordan to do?
Well, just like, there's certain plays that we might have two plays called, right? And we'll have a criteria for a certain can. And, you'll look out there and Aaron might not, fit it to the specific criteria, but he has a reason of why he did what he did. And I think, for a young player, specifically at the quarterback position, I think that's a lot to take on. So it's more or less, hey, just follow your rules, read with your feet, trust what you see, and then you got to be decisive. I think in all positions, but specifically that position, got a saying, indecisive equals ineffective. And so you have to be decisive and trust what you see, and just, if you make a bad decision, try to learn from it.
You've been around Jordan for well over a year now, so you spent quite a bit of time with him, but you've, of course, never seen him take a live snap against another team. At this point, how much do you know what he is or what he will be? Have you been able to glean any of that, or are you just kind of waiting to see him take snaps at this point?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good feel for him, but I think it's until you get out there, in those live situations when you got all these guys, trying to smack you around, I think it's a little bit different. So that comes with a lot of pressure, when you're in those game situations. So I think a lot of it for most people is just how do you handle those specific situations.
Feel for him. What gives you that feel from what you have seen, even without the snaps? How do you acquire that feel that you have?
I think just by being around him so much and watching him go through and how he processes, and he's a smart guy and he works really hard at it. So I'm excited to see what he can do when he gets out there.
Coach LaFleur, Aaron talked yesterday about how last offseason on the Zooms, that's where you guys sort of figured out this is what we want, this is what we don't want. And then now it's almost like a refinement, even the time that he's missed. What does refinement look like for you and Luke and Nate in terms of working with Aaron on refining this offense, given how good it was last year?
Yeah, I think, that's something that you've got to kind of stay ahead of the game and be willing to evolve, because anytime that you're the top offense, whether you're top special teams, top defense, everybody's seen your tape, and they're going to prepare for that. So I think it's important that we continue to communicate and try to think of, whether it's different plays that might play off a certain other play, just trying to work all that out throughout the course of training camp. And shoot, there's a lot that goes on even into the season on a weekly basis where you might make some tweaks or add another play or whatever it might be just to help complement what you already have.
In a typical year, we would be in the locker room and asking the rookies, what's it going to be like to be out there family night, Lambeau Field filled for the first time. But after the year you guys had with so many empty stadiums, do you, I guess, just not take it for granted anymore? And how special will it be to see this place filled this weekend?
Oh, we can't wait for family night. I think it's going to be great, especially for our young players that maybe have not had an opportunity to play in front of big crowds. It's almost like their first preseason game, and that's how we're going to treat it, especially at the end of that night, in terms of just getting some live action. And then, but just we're super excited to have our fans back in the stands, and there's just so much energy and excitement that goes along with that.
What do you remember about your first family night?
I just couldn't believe how many people were there to watch a practice. But yeah, no, it was special. It was the first time to walk out of that tunnel onto that field with, a pretty packed house.
Matt, we've seen John Runyon, obviously part of that competition at guard. What have you seen from him just year one to year two as he's settled into being a guard as opposed to, a tackle in college?
Well, I think, just going back to last season, I think John, he had to play week 1 versus the Vikings. And for him to be able to go in there and execute and play pretty well, I was really impressed with that, because when you're the 8th lineman or whatever, you're not anticipating necessarily playing in that game. But that just goes to the mindset that you have to have, whether you're a backup or a third string, whatever it may be, that you got to be ready to go. And the one thing that you learn about somebody like that is it's not too big for him. So we're really excited to see him take even bigger steps, and I think he has, but ultimately he's got to go do that throughout the course of the preseason.
Coach, just as far as your defense, again, Aaron talking yesterday about maybe he hasn't seen this kind of defense here in Green Bay previous years. Disguises and maybe the guys, especially on the back end, playing more freely. Do you see that? And is the focus turnovers for your defense football-wise?
Yeah, I think the focus is always turnovers. There's not a bigger measure in terms of winning and losing games than winning the turnover battle. So that's something that we talk about each and every day, that we drill, constantly wanting those guys to punch at the football. We call it punch, hammer, rake. So that is definitely a point of emphasis. And I think when you simplify the scheme, you can emphasize those certain fundamentals to make sure that everybody's doing that and buying into it, and just pursuing with reckless abandon towards the football wherever it may be, whether you're close to it or you're 50 yards away from it, just giving that effort. Because I think the teams that really stress that, and you watch it on tape, I think those are typically the teams that are toughest to play against.
All right, we'll turn it over to Zoom. Sarah, go ahead.
If we have 2 in here, go ahead, Bill Huber.
Hey Matt, obviously you guys haven't had that revolving door at left guard, but once Alfred's back, is there a competition at right guard as well? I know you kind of mixed those guys in a bit with Lucas, or is that just Lucas's job?
No, Bill, there's a competition everywhere. But specifically, those interior spots for sure. Really, every position's always up for competition. And what do we like to do? Put the best what out there? Come on, Nagler, help me out. Best 5, all right? Best 5.
You're on your own up there, buddy.
Tom Silverstein.
Hey Matt, can you tell, is there a scramble element to Jordan Love's game? And are we talking about using it? If there is it a weapon, or is it something that just allows him to buy more time in the pocket?
Well, I think, there's a scramble element to every quarterback's game, and that's such a feel thing. But certainly, we don't ever want to pass up an open receiver to go off schedule. So I think he does have the athleticism that he can manipulate and move in the pocket. And, there's definitely a feel to how you escape the pocket, whether it's up and out, whether it's, sometimes when we're not great with our rush lanes from a defensive perspective, sometimes there'll be a gaping hole that you can climb up into. But ultimately, it's such a feel thing. You always want the quarterback to keep his eyes downfield and see what's going on downfield. And that's why you got to kind of feel that rush and when to get out and when to try to escape and go off schedule.